Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Just Sing Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about ancestors, but it's going to switch gears a little bit. The topic came about because a sister hit me. Well, she ain't really hit me up. I kind of stole her post and shit, but it was a topic that came about because the topic was about sometimes, the absent parent the ancestors connected to the absent parent can be protecting you more than you know. And I wholeheartedly rock with that. And the concept was more so rooted in the fact that I'm not gonna say it's like there's ancestral guilt or anything like that, but with or without that parent's absence or presence, they still would have been there depending on, what the bloodline is and what you're really supposed to be tapped into. You feel what I'm saying? So it kind of got to where I was exploring it more and just sitting back and peeling back the layers on it and really sitting with my own expression of, the bloodlines and everything like that. But it's more so when you're looking at the parent who's not there, sometimes you can block yourself from those ancestors. They can still be protecting you. They can still be guiding you. They can still be in your space on a regular basis. However, the permission that they need to actually have, activity in your life and influence in your life, sometimes it's gone because of, whether you have disdain for that parent, the absent parent, or whether you are just trying to remove yourself from being connected to that parent, whether it be from trauma or different things that have occurred. But that could be what blocks you. They can, while you maintaining your disdain for them, that could simultaneously be your gift and your curse, so to speak. It can be what grants you the ability to access them, but also what prevents you from accessing them because they kind of need a key, and they need your permission as well. And you're denying their permission by being in opposition to that bloodline. And as I break it down, as I explain it a little bit more in detail, of course, when using my own example, but mainly I have to use my example for the duration for the bulk of this, simply because I've kind of experienced that. It wasn't until I actually met my mom's side of the family that I realized that my real, more so divine bloodline is more tied to my father's side. Like, and when you don't have anything to measure, you kind of just have to, quote unquote, be lost, because you have to just go with the flow, and, you don't really know what you don't know, So like growing up, my first experience with familiar structure was my dad's side of the family, wasn't my mom's. But I always had a more viable connection with them. It was more so I have like my dad's uncle lived in California. So, I vibed with him, his kids and shit like that. And we were tight. We were tight. It just fit. You know what I'm saying? It fit like a glove. Like it was like, sibling type shit. Like we was always down with each other. We was tight. We had that real connection. But like I said, you still have that yearning. So when I finally, like, I think I was like 12 years old when I finally met I was 9 years old when I finally met my dad's side of the family fully. Like his siblings, not just from the uncle side, but his siblings, my aunt, my uncles, their kids and everything like that. And it was like, damn, I feel home. Like this feels fucking home. And at first it was more so thinking that it was more so a tie from being a perspective of, just the longing. Like, I really just had my brother and sister pretty much growing up. Didn't really have cousins outside of my, my uncle's kids or whatever the case may be. But it's like it expanded even more. And it was like, this is more like me. And it's all from the same bloodline, all from the same last name. And so tying that in, it was like when I was 12, that's when I met my mom's side of the family for the first time. And like being with my mom and, her being the sole parent and shit, it was like I'm under the impression like, damn, I can't really connect like that. And it was not like I couldn't connect with my mom. It's like the spiritual side I couldn't connect with that. And, I'm 9. I'm fucking a kid. I don't know shit about spirituality and shit. All of this shit is me, speaking on hindsight. But then it was like when I finally met my mom's side of the family, it was like, I do not connect with you guys. I don't fuck with y'all. Now I don't know like no fucked up savage shit, but it's just like y'all don't even feel like home. Y'all don't even feel like I'm supposed to be from y'all. And a lot of it could be tied to the religious beliefs they had. My father's side of the family wasn't too religious. But that could be the disconnect too. I don't know, but I do know that when I first met my mom's side of the family, it shed light to the fact that that's not my family. Not in the sense of, any negative shit, but it's like, that's not my spiritual family. I could tell, like, I'm not spiritually connected to them, but I was spiritually connected to my father's side. So much so that it's just like, damn, y'all are it. Y'all are it. And I'm going to explain a little bit more of that and how it ties in and just how ancestral protection and stuff and all of this stuff works, and then the permissions and everything and how to clear the gap. And sometimes, being able to access that and, tap in. But before we dive into it, be sure to follow me on Instagram at _just_seen_. Be sure to check out my website at IamJustSeen.com to get all things that are just seen. To all who tip, sponsor, donate to the podcast, you are greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. To all those who would like to tip, donate, and sponsor, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of your podcast. Not the episode itself, but the podcast itself. Cash App and PayPal are just fine. And that's it for that. And that's that for this. And when we come back, we're going to dive into the ancestors, connecting through the absent parent. Oh, yeah. And don't forget to visit IamJustSeen.com. There, you can get all things Just Seen. You want to add the Sofrel series to your library? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to learn how to master the market for series trading and investing? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to get your hands on some exclusive merch like tees, hoodies, coffee mugs, hats, bags? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Are you thinking about transitioning into the plant-based lifestyle? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You ever want to just chat with Seen about anything from simple advice to mentorship? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Anything and everything that is me, you can find at IamJustSeen.com. So just take a quick peek into my world and see why being just seen is nothing less but always more. Because you never really know what you need until you see it. You will never see it unless you visit IamJustSeen.com. All right. Welcome back. And without further ado, we're going to dive straight into the ancestors, connecting through the absent parent. Now, this is, not necessarily going to be a perspective of, hey, this is what you do. This is, Ho did that. So hopefully you won't have to go through that. But now this is more so an expression of just the understanding from this perspective of what it is. So tying it back in, like I was saying, I never had a connection to my mom's side of the family. I've always had a connection to my mom, but just not my mom's side of the family because it was slightly, it was a disconnect. And it was like the first time I met my mom's side of the family, I was like 12. And when I met that side of the family, it was like, they constantly reminded me, from the first time I met, well, he don't look like anybody. Like they made it their business to tell me that me and my siblings didn't look like them. You feel me? Especially me. My sister is damn near a replica of my mama, so it wasn't, anything off of that, And my brother, him and my sister look alike, but he looks more so like my dad. You feel me? I'm such an amalgamation of both of them that don't look like anybody. But they made it their business to say, you know what? He don't look like us. And it was hard. They didn't really embrace me. I gave a fuck at first. I ain't gonna hold you. I gave a fuck at first. But a part of me just really didn't care. It was really like, so I don't fuck with y'all anyway. Like I never fuck with y'all. I never knew y'all. This is my first time meeting y'all in 12 years. I don't fucking know you. So it's like, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't hurt me in that regard. Like, like I should be. And now, mind you, these are adults. These are like my mom's aunts and uncles that are saying this. Like, why were you telling kids to their face, like, he don't look like nobody? Like, bitch, I don't care. I don't want to look like y'all. But it was different when I met my dad's side of the family when I was 9. Like, they embraced the fuck out of me. So much so that it was just like, come like first time meeting, come stay the night with such and such, like spend the night with my cousins and shit. I seen one of my cousins is like, me and him are damn near identical cousins. Like me and him look just the fuck alike. I'm taller. You feel me? But he's a little bit shorter than me. But it's like when they seen that, they were like, yo, y'all are twins, like y'all are twin cousins and shit. But it started to, and I could never like, it was like, man, but his mom and his dad don't look nothing like my mom and my dad. So how the fuck did we come out looking just the same? Now that I'm older, I understand it's because our spiritual bloodlines, our energies manifested the same way. You know what I'm saying? So we pretty much look alike. And it's we and him have the same dynamic with our siblings, same age, almost the same ages apart. But it's like, and his brother and his sister look just alike. You feel me? And he just looks like bam, it's like you look totally different. Same thing with me and my siblings. My brother and my sister look alike. And you know what I'm saying? We look different, but it's like, how did me and him come out like that? You know what I'm saying? And that was like me. I got another cousin. We all look real, it's like, well, we cousins. We supposed to look similar. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's bloodline shit. But it's like our energy were the same. It wasn't just the physical expression. We had this very, 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 very similar energy. So much so that it's like, damn, y'all really could be brothers for real, for real. Now that I'm older, I understand that it's more of the spiritual connection. It's more of the spiritual side that ties the soul tribe, spiritual bond. Right. So in that, I started to, spend time with my family and shit like that. And it's like that disconnect was there, but it wasn't there. Like because of the fact that my father wasn't there, of course, I didn't have that immediate connection with them or whatever the case may be. But in building the time and spending it with them, like the first time meeting them, it was just, bam, y'all my family. I got an aunt. I got an aunt, man. I love her to life. This was the first time I experienced love from somebody outside of, the immediate circle of my family. And it used to make me blush every time she said it and shit. Now, mind you, I'm 9 years old. So when we left and we moved to California and shit, I was 4 months old. So nobody had seen me since I was born. For like 3 years straight, every time there was a cookout, every time there's a family function, I pulled up. Every time the same one would be like, is that the baby? I'm not a baby anymore, auntie, but yes, I'm the baby. Like that's who, yes, that's who they say. Oh my gosh, you done got so big and this, you just seen me last year. Like, you know what I'm saying? But that energy was there. That energy was there. Our spirits were like kindred. Like it was like, that's been my whole side of the family from my dad's side. But my dad was never there. So it was like, I didn't even know what I was supposed to be feeling with them, but I felt myself in them. In hindsight, now that I can look back and I can say, okay, this is spiritual shit. This is on that spiritual level and shit. So, but at the time, I didn't know that. I just know that they felt familiar. They felt like me. You feel what I'm saying? The first time I meet my cousins and shit, they, putting me on game. They, what I'm saying? I had one cousin that I wanted to be like and shit, but it's like, it felt good. It didn't feel awkward. Like, what I'm saying? I don't know these people or these people aren't me. It felt that way with my mom's side of the family. You feel me? And my mom was the present parent. But it's like I felt the disconnect from her side of the family. So whatever spiritual tie, whatever spiritual connection that would have been had, like I can't say I have that. You feel me? I can't say that I have that because I don't even think the way that they think. I don't even, visualize life the way that they visualize life. But when I look at the soul connection that I have with my other siblings, with my siblings and my dad's side of the family, it's different. It's different. Our spirits are different. We have a different level of resilience. We have the hustle in us. You feel me? It's like we're entrepreneur based and it's all kind of, processing shit that's different. Now, it becomes a little bit tricky because my mom, her dad is like pretty much connected in that regard. But it's still some kind of, it's like even talking to her siblings that are of him, are his children. So my mom got like 10 siblings or some shit, but like the first 3 weren't from my granddad. But like the remaining from my mom down, they're all my granddad's kids. So it's like, but even being around them, it's just like, I never felt connected. I can never figure it out. I'm like, yo, I could be around y'all and it just feels awkward. It just feels like, ugh, we just 2 people in the same space. But whenever I was around my dad's side of the family, that was like the connection was there. It was a viable connection. It was a very fruitful connection. Like it was like I plugged in and just, I could feel my energy rising. I could feel the light. You feel what I'm saying? Even though, that's also the daddy side. So, that's the ratchet side. That's the side that motherfucking They'll squeeze first, ask questions later. The motherfuckers with the shits. But you feel me? When I look at it, that's where I got my warrior spirit from. My warrior spirit comes from there. My intellect comes from there. And it's very, very hard to accept sometimes because it's like, I feel like my dad ain't smart. I feel like my dad's stupid as fuck. Like he wasn't talking to him. It's just like, yo, but when I look at how they navigate life, you know, most of my male cousins and shit, not most, because some of them did go to the military, Air Force and all that shit, but the immediate ones that were like more so my first cousins, like my second cousins were a little, you know, they were the ones we went to college and shit like that and all that. But like my first cousins, a lot of them, you know, dropped out of school. A lot of the males anyway, they dropped out of school. You know, they were trapping and shit, but they had street smarts on a whole nother level. Like, you feel me? They can navigate life differently. They knew how to actually process and break down information and shit. So that I was like, man, I am that. I am that. Now I'm not going down the route of the streets, but I am that. And it's just like it fits so perfectly. Like we just had that energy. So when I was considering that post, it hit me, it dawned on me. It was like, damn, that's who's been protecting me. That's who's been looking out for me it's been more so my father's side, my father's bloodline. And when I started to go down, like them motherfuckers was gangsters. Like, I mean, gangsters, like on some other shit. Like they got stories that I can't reveal on this podcast, you know, but I will say that these motherfuckers was real gangsters, feared gangsters, like in their area, like people wouldn't fuck with them. People wouldn't fuck with the last name of the family, like because of that. So I was like, man, why the fuck didn't I know any of this shit growing up, bruh? You feel me? But it wasn't supposed to be meant because it would have put me down the wrong path. I've learned that I'm not gonna say I'm here to right the wrongs of that, but I'm the cycle breaker through the same energy that I have. That is them. You feel what I'm saying? Like I said, they all have the hustle. I'm an entrepreneur. Like I go get it the same way that they got it. But it's just like I chose to go down the legal routes and all this other shit. So when I look at sometimes the absent parent can be what fucks up the breakage of the bloodline. You know, I used to always say this shit. I'd be like, I would not be who I am had my father been present because I would have emulated him. I would have just emulated him. I had nothing to emulate because he was gone. Now, I'm not giving the pass or saying like, yeah, he should have walked out or no. I can't give a pass for that. But at the same time, I can't control how certain shit has to play out in life. You feel me? I would not be able to break any cycles or any of the shit that's been imposed upon me and my people from my bloodline and shit and from the spiritual bloodline had I have had him present in my life. You dig what I'm saying? I wouldn't understand. Like a lot of the shit that I've learned was because I had to figure out how to be a man on my own, but my bloodline was still viable. My ancestors still protected me. And I know now that it's my ancestors from my father's side, not my mother's side. And this is not a slight towards them or anything like that, because I know that they, you know, still hold it down and they're still in that space. But when I look at the present reality of my mom's side of the family, she was the present parent, and her side of the family is they kind of I don't feel them. I don't connect with them. I can't connect with them. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like it's hard to understand like how on that other side they can be looking out too in the same way. They do. They have to be, because it's like I'm breaking cycles on both sides of both sides of my family. But on my side, on my father's side of the family, that's who fuels me. That's where my spiritual bloodline comes from. And and I feel like their protection of me they're heavy, because like when I say they protected me from crazy, like there's shit that I got into that I shouldn't have got out of. I know that I wouldn't have got out of any other way. You feel what I'm saying? I know that there's no way that I could have got out of that, but it was the reality. When I look at how the bloodline would have came from my mom's side of the family, they don't have that street edge, street smart function. You feel me? They don't have that go-getting mentality. They don't have that like they are more so docile. And my father's side is more so action oriented. Like, we're going to do this shit. You feel me? So that's me. I'm more so built and wired to that. So when I look at how this plays itself out into the reality and shit, and then, like I said, when I consider that post, it really hit different, because it's like, that's who was guiding me. That's who's been on that side looking out for the most part, because it's like, in the, I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's like a guilt thing about having my father not there, so they stepped up a little bit more. I'm not gonna tie it to that, but I will say that they were there because the connection was viable. It was a lot more viable than it was with my mom. Like my dad's side has stronger, has a stronger spiritual influence, you know. And then when I learned a little bit more about how my dad's side of the family, they didn't practice religion. And all of this shit was kept from me. I just found this out about 2 years ago. But a lot of this shit was kept from me. And there's a lot of shit that they, powers and shit that they actually use, connections to the earth. I'm not going to get into what practice they actually did or no shit like that, but it made sense. It's like, what is it how am I able to connect to nature and the earth and all of this shit that same way? And then when I sit and I think about it and I experience it when I talk to them, it's like they all had that same drive. My cousins, the ones that I was able to sit with the most and actually encounter, it's like we had that same energy. And one of my cousins, he gave me a nickname. And this is the cousin he's a cousin from my father's side of the family and shit like that. He gave me a nickname and he called me Professor. He would always call me that. I didn't know why. It's just like, yo, bro, I'm gonna call you Professor. Like, because I remember, I think I was helping him with his homework. I think I had to be like 12, 11 or 12, maybe. And he was in like a college class or some shit like that, or some course, and he didn't know how to do the math. He was like, yo, Professor, help me with this. And I pretty much just broke it down. He was like, yo, how you do my homework? How do you know how to do this shit? I said, I don't know, bro. It's just what it is. It's from that moment on, he called me Professor. Like, that side of the family, that's what they call me. They call me Professor. And now when I look at how that affirmation played itself out, that's one of the things that I do. I teach people. I teach things. I teach things that people can't understand. I'm not saying he couldn't understand the math that he was using, but on a bigger scale of that, it's like I have the capacity and ability to dive deeper into things. And I feel like that is a part of the connection to our ancestral bloodline, to our ancestral lineage and shit. And with the cycles that I'm poised to break and the cycles that I'm poised to rewrite, I'm rewriting it for that line, for this line and shit. And so this is more so because I feel like with my father being absent and not there, it was a reset. It was a reset for me. I'm not going to say this is the case for everybody. I'm not going to say, yeah, it was some spiritual shit while your parents, like, no, he still made a conscious decision because it could have very well been him staying in my life and changing who he was as a person to still give me the spark to do what I need to do. But he didn't. It was just what he chose to do. So I can't say that it's some, ordinance that he was supposed to be out of my life because he made a choice. You feel me? He made a choice that required him to remain stagnant and not evolve and grow the way he was supposed to. You feel me? Because he was supposed to carry the baton and pass it to me for the sake of his bloodline and our spiritual connection off that side. But they always knew it was going to be me. They always knew it was going to be me, and it was always poised for that. And then it's in the absence of, like I said, it's in the absence of my father that strengthened the presence of the ancestors that come from his side. And it's a long line. It's a long line. And it's like when I sit back and I look at how they are, those, like, my father's side of the family are more storytellers. They are nice with words. They are pretty much everything I am. You know what I'm saying? It's like not a single person in my, like, on my dad's side of the family who does not have in some way, shape, or form a gift that I have. Like I said, the warrior spirit, all of these different things, they come from that side of the family. Now, my mom's side of the family doesn't have that. They don't have that shit at all. Like, none of the gifts that I possess, none of the gifts that I have, none of them come from that side of the family. So much so that when I sit around them, and it's just like, it'd be shocking how I can be talking about some shit and then it's like, it just doesn't resonate. Now, our bloodlines, our ancestral bloodlines are split. It's a divergence. It's split between both of them, both parents. But you're going to have one dominate based off of how your soul is supposed to reincarnate, how your soul is supposed to come in. Because we got to remember, at one point we were ancestors. At one point we will be ancestors again. We just cycle back in because this is our plane. But I've always had like a cold connection or an empty connection to my mom's side of the family. And it was in that empty connection to my mom's side of the family that it was like, but it was one of those things. At first it began with, oh, it's just because I don't know y'all. You feel me? It's just because I don't know y'all. Then I thought more, it's because I gave up the religion and all of that shit. But nah, it was there before I even studied the religion, before I even internalized it as my own. It's just like there was never a connection there. But my dad's side of the family, off rip. I used to wonder why, like when I was in school, in elementary school, because before I met anybody, it was just us, but like in elementary school, I was a fighter. I wasn't necessarily violent, but I want no bitch either. Like, you feel me? You come with the smoke, nigga, I'm gonna show you where the fire at, bruh. But it was in meeting my mom's side of the family that I realized that they're very passive. They're not fighters at all. You feel me? Now my pop side of the family, hey, bro, if you, as soon as you pull up and say, okay, it's smoke, it's smoke. It don't matter. Like, my grandma still gets it in. My dad's mom still gets it in. She'll still fight right fucking now. Don't give a damn. Like, if it's some shit that you got, like, you get to one of those things where, society conditions you and say, oh, you too old to be doing that shit. But I'm like, man, my grandma still got that fucking fire lit within her. You feel me? But my mom's side of the family, they're not fighters. They're not fighters at all. Not even physically fighting. I mean, just in general. Like, my dad's side of the family has a different level of resilience. Like I said, everything that I have that is me comes from them. But it's in, now I'm gonna talk about how you can have the blockage within the disdain of that person. So my fight came because it was hard to embrace that side of myself. Because when I meet my mom's side of the family, when I just see my mom, like, my mom was a gangster too, low key. She don't, like, that's how her and my pops was even able to get the fucking together. Like, you feel me? My mom was always with the shits. You feel me? But her duality is split because she has the bloodline from my father. And it's like, I think it infused because it's a little bit of it comes from my grandfather, which is my mom's dad. But then most of it comes from my father's parents. Both my grandma and granddad, they was on some gangster shit, still on some gangster shit. You feel what I'm saying? But it's more so not really being on gangster shit as much as it is having a warrior spirit. When I say everybody fights well too. But it channeled something in me because it's like you feel this energy in yourself and you feel the spirit over you. You feel that you come from this type of energy, but you can't quantify it because you can't see it anywhere. You feel what I'm saying? I caught glimpses of it because, like, when we lived in California and shit, like I said, we lived, and we affiliated more so with my dad's uncle. And my dad's uncle, he had kids. Like, I don't think he was that much older than my dad because he's like, they got, back in those days, they had a lot of siblings and shit, right? So he's like one of the youngest of the siblings. So him and my dad are pretty much close in age. But you feel me? It's crazy shit like that. But so when he had kids, they were my age, my brother's age, and then he had my oldest cousin who had to be, because he was like, I think I was 5 and he was 18. So that shows the gap. Before he died, he died when he was 18. I was 5 and shit. But he was a gangbanger and shit. He was a Crip. And it was in that, like, just being around them. Like, when shit popped off, we were fighters. It wasn't like we were violent people. And I think that's one of the hardest realities to deal with, because here I am being conditioned and groomed into a religious mold that teaches me to be passive and docile. And it's just not who I am in any way, shape, or form. So growing up in school, like my mom, she was a dual nature, because now that I meet the side of the family that has the most influence on her, they cowards. I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but I mean, there's no respectful way to call a motherfucker coward. But like, they won't fight. Not physically, not mentally, not spiritually. They don't have that resilience to push through shit. You feel me? They don't. I watch it. They just don't have it. My pop side does. So when growing up, like the cousins and siblings that, the cousins that I grew up with, the little bit that I had, it was really only 2. Before my cousin, it was 3, and then my cousin got killed, and then it was just me, my brother, my sister, and then my 2 cousins and shit. And we were fighters. You feel me? Like so much so that like if it was really a problem, it's like, yo, here's what it is. It was no, we were never on no turn the other cheek shit. We were never passing people. But that put me in a position to where I'm like, I'm not violent. I didn't, and to this day, I don't like fighting. I don't like doing violent shit, but I don't give a fuck about taking it there either. And I would never understand that. I would try so hard, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be that, because of the grooming and the conditioning that I was in based off of a side that I never got to experience. My disdain for my pops is what made me try to sever the tie from that. Cause I'm like, I don't want to be nothing like him. I used to utter those words. I don't want to be nothing like my dad. Cause the only thing I knew about my dad was that he left. He walked out. I know, talk about having the resilience and the being a fighter coming from that dynamic, being that bloodline. Like, why my pops didn't do this shit, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Maybe that's why he dropped the ball. Maybe that's what it is. He could have been, something different. He just wasn't built for that shit. But that spirit, it never died. It never died. And it passed on to me, my brother, and my sister. You feel me? We are built on that shit heavily. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like watching that grow up and then having my first disconnect from my pops and actually severing the tie from him myself, it kind of severed the tie from my ancestral connection. You feel what I'm saying? It severed my tie from my father's, the ancestral connection, but not in the sense that I could not channel them. Not in the sense that they wouldn't protect me still and be around me, because it's like I am them and they are me, regardless of what happens in the physical side. You feel what I'm saying? But it was more so tied into the perspective of the moment I said, fuck my father. And like I blocked him because he was the path. And how? Because I denied him. I said, I said, I'm gonna make something of my last name. I'm not gonna be, I don't want nothing to do with my dad. And I didn't realize what I was uttering when I would say those things. You feel me? I had no idea what I was really uttering when I said those words. But it was in saying those words. And now that I'm older and looking back, I can realize the moment that the ties got severed. Because I would notice that when I said, I don't want to fuck with that side of the family. Not necessarily fuck with that side of the family, because I still did. Me and one of my cousins from my dad's side of the family, we went to college together and shit like that. And it's like, yo, he was, this shit about to start making sense to me, just thinking about it. But like when my cousin came to the college, like he met my ex-girlfriend, the girlfriend I was with at the time. And I was with that girlfriend because she felt more like my mom's side of the family, which is a side of the family I never connected to. But it was basically because she was religious and all these different things. And it was, my cousin was more so my dad's side of the family. So my cousin, he pulled up and shit. I'm introducing him and shit. That's my girl and shit. Like, this nigga laugh at me, bro. Like, this, I could have punched him in his motherfucking mouth. But he laughed at me, but it wasn't really a laugh. Like, you know what I'm saying? I can tell it was our bloodline speaking to each other. It was our ancestral connection speaking to each other. He like, that's your girl? I was like, yeah. He said, I said, nigga, fuck you, bruh. He said, bruh, that ain't you. He said, that ain't you. He said, he said, that ain't your type. That ain't your woman. And at the time, I was more so basing it off of the fact, I'm like, yo, bro, I'm not that person no more. I'm not like that. I done changed, man. I'm in college now. That it's like, I started to separate myself from my ancestral side. Right. And it was more so, my pops didn't go to college. My pops didn't, I don't even know if he graduated. I don't know shit about this nigga, to be honest with you. So I can't say what he did and what he didn't do. Well, he had to at least graduate from high school, probably, if he was in the military, I think. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. To be honest with you, I couldn't even tell you. But I do know that it's like in trying to disconnect from him, I was disconnecting from them, but didn't really know it, didn't really get it. So it's like, but they felt home. Like that side of the family felt home, which meant that that spiritual tie was who I was with. Like I said, it was like little reminders that I was getting over time. Like I said, when I was 9, when we moved to North Carolina and I finally met my side of the family, my dad's side of the family, it felt home. And as I grew, I started to realize that I became more into myself. I had a different confidence, I had a different air about myself, I had a different energy. You feel me? I had a different energy, and it was more so positive. I had a higher self-esteem. But then it was when I tried to connect with my mom's side of the family, I lost it. I felt myself dying on the inside. You know, I felt myself dying on the inside, trying to connect to that energy. And it wasn't like, I'm not talking just from the spiritual, but like on the physical plane, like, oh, I got to stop cussing. I got to stop, doing all of these different things. And, I got to be more religious. And that's how I ended up meeting a religious woman, to find out that, the religion wasn't really, the religion wasn't built for me. It wasn't built for me, but I followed it. And, I decided to understand it. But I think it was more so the resilience coming from that side of my father's family. I will say they are very analytical people. They have to know, they have to understand something thoroughly. Although a lot of my cousins and shit, a lot of that side of the family, it was a duality, because there was some that went to college, that went to the Air Force, that went to the military and shit. And they did something, like, we still had the same energy. Some of them didn't go to school that route, but they still had that same energy of wanting to do better, wanting to do for self and shit like that. That necessarily wasn't the case with what I was trying to connect to as I got older. I was like, I want to be more like my mom's side of the family, because maybe if I connect to them more, things would change and the relationships would get better. But this is the same side of the family who told me I didn't look like anybody. You feel me? And I remember the conversation. One of my aunties was like, now I'm realizing that this very well could have been a spiritual conversation. As she said it, she was like, he don't look like us. It wasn't, she didn't say he doesn't look like our side of the family. It was like, he don't look like us. And I was more so on some shit like, the fuck you mean by that? And I realize now my soul don't feel like theirs. Their souls don't feel like mine. It just don't. There's no connection there. My soul feels like my father's side of the family. And it was in starting to know that I started to really sit back and really analyze things differently. So going through the motions of trying to attach to that side of the family was denying the actual essence that was dominantly running through my veins. That was dominantly running through me. And I was disconnected from it because of my disconnection from my father. And it's almost like I can remember the moment it happened. I was 18 years old. And my sister hit me up on some bullshit. Talking about, your dad want to talk to you. I said, nigga, that's your daddy too. The fuck? Stop calling him my daddy. Like, you know what I'm saying? We all got the same father. You feel me? And so he's like, she's like, yeah, just hit him up, talk to him and shit. And, he want to talk to you. So my thing is this, nigga, only thing you can tell me only thing you can give me is an apology. That's all I want. I don't really want to talk to you if you ain't about that shit. You feel what I'm saying? Pride and all these other motherfuckers, he couldn't apologize. He couldn't formulate the words within himself to say, I'm sorry. So if you ain't on that type time, nigga, fuck you. That's my thing. And I never forget that conversation when I was 18 years old. When I talked to him then, that pretty much put the icing on the cake or the nail in the coffin. I say when it really started to change and it went down a negative route was when I was 11, because that's when I first met him. And that's when he, broke my heart the first time and shit. And from there, I don't want to be associated with this person in any way, shape, or form. Not realizing what I was saying. I was cutting the ties from them. You feel me? Now, I think I was given the pass. I think I was given a pass from their connection, but not only because I was a kid and I didn't know anything about spiritual. So I didn't know anything about spirituality and shit like that. None of that. Right. But I will say that in that moment, they always still protected me. Like, there's a lot of shit I got into as a kid. A lot of shit I got into as a kid that I shouldn't have made it out of. But it was in me expressing how my soul felt, like really being who I was without being afraid of it, that it was like these things would work for me. And it was just like, how the fuck you make it out of that shit? I don't know. I knew how now, but you know what I'm saying? It's like they always had a protection, even though I didn't connect with them the way I was supposed to. So like I said, fast forward to when I was 18, that conversation that I had then, I completely cut him off at this point. And I said, I don't want nothing at all. I utter these words. I don't want nothing at all to do with you. Like, everything that you represent, everything that you stand for, I don't fuck with you no more. That was my last conversation with him at 18 years old. And I can tell I severed the tie then. All right. Look. the markets are not a difficult place to understand, all right? You just have to know what you're looking at. And there's 5 things that you need to see before you can make any market entry. First, you need a pocket, so you can know which direction the market is going in. Second, you need a pullback, so you can get the better price. Third, you need a battlefield, so you can see when that market movement is slowing down. Fourth, you need the upper hand, so you can see when the market reactivates. And last, you need a final push, so you can see the exact moment when it's time to go with the direction you are already moving in, okay? Of course, there's so much more that has to go into that, and it's not as cut and dry as that. But those are things that I teach in my Mastering the Market course. So if you would like to learn more, please visit IamJustSing.com and check out the Mastering the Market course today. Although it is directed and specialized for Forex, all of the skills, I crafted them to be transferable to any market that you're looking at. So again, visit IamJustSing.com and check out the Mastering the Market course today if you are truly looking to master the market. Because it was in that moment too, I got into a relationship, and a person, we kind of got deeper involved, and I more so started trying to connect with my mom's side of the family, which is the side of the family that I didn't really have ties to. I didn't have a spiritual tie to them in any way, shape, or form. My spirit was not of theirs. I don't care what nobody tries to tell me. I tried to force it. It would be like little shit that just would piss me off, like about them. Like we would have family get-togethers and shit, and they'll just come and don't bring nothing, just expect you to have everything and shit. And I'd be like, man, mom's is by herself, bro. Y'all, man, no, fuck that. And I will always say shit like that. Mom would be like, Ray, it's okay. Like, no, it's not okay. Cause they not helping you. They just want to come down here. I'm going to end up cooking. You going to end up cooking and shit. And we're going to do all of this shit for these motherfuckers. And they don't even give a fuck about us. They don't call to check up on you when shit happens. And my biggest beef with them was that we ended up in California because of a situation with my moms and my pops. Like, this nigga was on some stupid shit. Like, she gave him the money to go pay the rent or some shit, or pay a bill. I think it was the rent. And this nigga didn't go pay the rent. Like, I don't know what the fuck compelled him not to, but he didn't go pay the rent. So, motherfucker, he had been spending the money. So we ended up having to move because it was like, yo, we ain't got nowhere to go. So this is when I started to realize, like, you never know who you're being protected by. And I started to see that there's a protection that I have that anybody around me is going to be protected in the same way, in the very same way. You feel me? But again, you're a kid. You don't know shit about shit. You feel me? Early. So it's like, that's how we ended up in California. Because first, my mom called her side of the family, her siblings. They shitted on my mama. They was on some shit like, okay, we'll call you back. Or we ain't got enough room for all of that. And all this. My mom, I'm not going to be there long. I just, a little bit to get on my feet and then I'm out. And she meant that shit. And that's really what she do. You feel me? So they denied it. Her siblings, they was like, yo, we're going to I'm going to call you back and let you know. Never called her back. So we ended up in California because on my dad's side of the family, one of my uncles like, yo, pack them babies up and come on. We got you. That's how we ended up in California and, started living my life. So I ain't know shit about shit. So just recently I had a conversation, I think about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It was within this year. I was at the family function and shit with my mom's side of the family and everything. We was talking about the story of being in California. One of my aunts decides to chime in. My mom was like, yeah, I did it by myself and all this. She said, I'm glad I didn't get strung out or anything like that. I wasn't on drugs and shit like that. And my aunt said, if you was on drugs, that would have happened to you. You would have came and got you. Me in my mouth. I don't give a fuck. Don't flex. Like, you feel me? I said, no, you wouldn't, because y'all knew where the fuck we was at. I ain't say fuck, because I do have that level of respect. I said, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't have came and got her because y'all knew where we was at and nobody sent any kind of bird, carrier, pigeon, or nothing. I said, I didn't even know y'all existed until I was 12 years old. She was like, I said, yeah, my mom like, Ray, stop. No, because don't play that game with us. Don't play that game with me. For 9 years, I knew nothing about y'all. I didn't find out, like, I knew my mom had brothers because they would always, come check on her. You feel me? I knew about 3 of my mom's brothers, but to know that she got 10 siblings and I only knew about 3 brothers, fuck y'all. Fuck y'all. So don't hit me with that bullshit about, oh, we would have came and we would have had to come and do this. No, you wouldn't, because you had the opportunity to do so and you didn't do it. You had 9 years to do this shit. 9. And I don't meet you until, and it's not until my mom is on her shit. That's when it's like, now everybody wants to come down and everybody wants to, oh, we always knew you was going to do this. Nah, y'all thought she was going to fail. And then when I started to meet my mom's side of the family, they be on some sucker shit. But that's a whole different dynamic, right? You know, I don't want to get too heavy into that because I'm talking about the connection that you have with your absent parent still. Um, so yeah, it's like a lot of that protection was there. You know what I'm saying? We ended up going to Cali, and it's like I realized that bloodline was protecting us. That bloodline was there. It was like that infusion within that, it gave, a different drive. My mom would tell me a story about when I was like 4. We was walking to the bus or some shit. And it was like 6 o'clock in the morning and shit. She walking by herself. I had to be like 4 years old. So it's like she's walking, holding my hand, and I'm, being me and shit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the sun, the birds, the trees, and all of this shit. I'm trying to, my mom's like, all right, Ray, hurry up. We got to, I can feel her hand. Like, I'm an empath. I can feel shit. I be telling motherfuckers I can feel shit around them. Like, nah, man. Like, I could feel it so bad that if a motherfucker's hurt, or they depressed, that shit'll hurt my heart. I can feel that shit for real, for real. So I knew my mama was scared. So as I'm walking, I'm just talking, but like, I'm not worried because I know I'm being protected. You feel me? So again, when you young, you can only express yourself as you know. You know what I'm saying? As what your mind can perceive and what you have within your database. So all I knew at the time was angels and shit because we was going to church. So my mama was like, we walking and shit. She squeezing my hand. And I'm like, Mom, don't be scared. It's okay. She tried to laugh at her. What you talking about, Ray? I'm not scared. She said, I was like, yes, you are. I said, don't be scared. The angels are watching over us. They're right there. They're walking with us. I said, you see them? Look up. And it was, she said it freaked her out. Like, she took me to daycare and she was like, I want you to keep an eye on him because he said he's seeing angels. And it's just like, I was like, I'm laughing like, at the time, I know I didn't really see angels, in a sense, but I knew what I was talking about. I knew I was protected. That's just how I defined it as an angel. And, because it's like at the end of the day, y'all teaching me all this shit in church, talking about angels got wings and shit. And I'm telling you, okay, this is what I'm seeing in the sky right now. It's an angel. But then when I tell you that we protected by angels, all of a sudden now you want to get scared. You've been telling me that we protected by angels. Now when I point it back out to you and I say I see them, then it's a problem, but I digress. I love you, mama. But yeah, so I'm learning that all that time, that's what was protecting me. And that's where the bloodline came from, because it was like, and that's what's always been around me, because like when I finally met my father's side of the family, it felt like the same shit that I felt was always around me. It felt like the same shit that I felt was always around me. I said, oh, this is it. This doesn't feel different. I don't feel like I got to get to know y'all. I don't feel like, but my mama's side of the family, it was never there. So I was like, where did the disconnect come in? And it very well be I could have severed the ties with them motherfuckers too, because on some y'all left us hanging and didn't know it. But I didn't know who I didn't know. So you feel what I'm saying? But I knew when I met my father's side of the family, it was different. Like when I first met my mom's uncle, my mom's brother, I didn't feel that way. I was 9 years old then. I didn't have that energy where it just felt like, you home, bruh. You didn't even feel like my mom felt to me. Like, but it's like, all right, well, I could fuck with you because my mama say you good. But when we hit North Carolina, that's when I felt I can feel the energy transforming within me. It's like, oh, I'm coming home. Like, this is where we at. Like, you feel what I'm saying? And so just to be around it all the time was a little bit different. So, like I said, by 18, when I was 18 and I made that tie where I severed ties with my pops, shit got different. I didn't even realize how it felt like I went on autopilot. It felt like nothing was around me anymore. You feel what I'm saying? But it'll be little things that'll, give me nudges and shit from time to time, but it felt like empty. It didn't feel the same. I can remember the conversation. I remember like the conversation that I had with my dad before, like when he first called me, it felt like it was a springtime. I can remember vividly the where I was sitting at, the sun shining on me. I can remember feeling vibrant. I could feel so alive. And then when I told him, I was like, because, he was a little bitch on his shit. And he hit me with some shit like, you can call me sometimes. If you ever want to call me, you just got my number to come. I said, nigga, fuck you, bro. I said, you got my number. I'm the fucking child. He said, why I gotta be like that? I said, nigga, you made it like this. No, you made it like that. And that pissed me off. When he said that shit to me, that was the moment I severed the tie from him. I never forget it. because I said, nigga, fuck you. I don't want shit to do with you. I don't give a fuck about you. I was mad. I was very angry because how you going to do that to a kid and try to put that responsibility on me? Like I'm the reason why you left me. You're not about to do that to me, bro. I had gotten over it. I had healed. I had gotten to the point where it wasn't me. You feel me? I internalized that he was the reason. I was the reason that he wasn't around. I really internalized that shit because when I first met him, I'm a fucking intellect. I'm damn near a genius. I don't like to credit myself with the shit because, you got to be modest and shit. But nigga, being humble don't work as well as being aware. I'm a fucking genius, bro. You feel me? But anywho, when I first meet him, I'm like, I don't have any grades. I mean, any like trophies and shit. I didn't play sports. I wasn't that. You feel what I'm saying? But when I first met him and shit, he was like, oh, you just a nerd. Like the only accomplishment I got, I'm showing you my good grades, my report cards, all that shit. It fucked me up because I internalized that because I felt maybe if I'm stupid, maybe if I don't get good grades, he'll come back, he'll stay. That's how I ended up almost failing the 6th grade and shit because I gave up. I gave up because I wanted him back. He didn't come back. So I had just gotten to the point where I was over that. Then you gonna blame me, and you gonna like when I'm 18, like you gonna put that on me and make me that reinvigorated all of those feelings. Like, bruh, you did this to me, and then you're gonna tell me it's my fault you ain't here. It's my fault we in this situation. I snapped. I said, fuck you, nigga. Like, I don't want to I don't want shit from you. I don't want to talk to you. What T.I. saying, AT, I don't want to kick it with you. I don't want to skate with you. I don't want to do nothing with you. Feel me? I was on that type time and I severed the ties. I severed the soul ties. I don't want nothing to do with you at all. And I didn't know what I was uttering. I separated myself from my ancestral line. In that moment, my life was empty from that point forward. Yeah, I was, going through the motions and shit like that. Like, I couldn't feel full. I could not feel complete. I did not feel that. And I'll never forget when I was 24. When I was 24, that's when my grandma was killed. And then I'm still going through the mourning phases and all of that shit, going through the grief and all of that other, good shit. But it was when I was 26, 25, I moved to Philly and shit. I don't know what put me to Philly. Ironically, I guess it's symbolism and shit. I could be reaching, but Philly is the city of brotherly love. Love is there. It's supposed to be there. Now, with love comes correction. When I was in Philly, that was a place that I went and I corrected myself. Can't say if that was, spiritual or whatever the case may be, but I corrected who I was. I went there at 25 and I started to reinvigorate and started to reconnect. And I started to feel myself coming back into the space. I started to interact with people who felt more like my family felt, my father's side of the family felt. You feel me? I was always in the hood. I was always, with some hood people and shit. And they was like, bro, you're in the master's program. I ain't gonna fuck that shit. I run this shit like this is home for me. But that was my thing. That was really my thing. And so I started to reinvigorate myself. And at 20, I started writing 20. So for real, when I was 26, in that same year, because I started to break down masculinity, I started doing a lot of studying and shit. And I just went in and I was just like, I got to find myself. I got to figure out myself. There's something missing in my life. I knew that there was something missing in my life. Thought it was a woman and shit. Nope. It's like, so I eventually, started practicing celibacy in 2015. Got solid in 2016 because I had my slip up and shit. Sue me, I'm rooting for everybody's black. But so I had that moment, and it's in that moment where I started writing So For Real. And then I started to realize my disconnect from my father was the reason why. My disconnect from my father and that spiritual side was the reason why I was attracting women that I was attracting. And I was, coming into it because it got to a point where I was trying to put the savior complex on it because I was trying so hard to like, I learned some lessons, and like when I first got my heart broken, it was, I was supposed to be out of that situation a long time ago, but my disdain for my father made me stay in it. It made me stay in it because I said, I will not walk away. I will fight through this. I will get through this. As a man, something that we often aren't taught as men is that sometimes it's okay to walk away when shit is killing you. I never internalized that. I just went to the extreme. Oh, he was a coward. He was a bitch. He won't shit, man. Fuck that nigga, man. You don't leave. You don't walk on your kids. Now, I'm not saying I'm not giving him a pass for walking out on me. But I'm saying in his absence, there was shit that I could have learned still that I didn't go to the other side for. You feel me? I internalized him leaving on his responsibilities, being like, if you can't leave on your responsibility at all. But it taught me like, yo, sometimes it's okay to leave. The situation with him and my mama was different than the one that I was in a relationship with. I was dying on the inside, still trying to fuck with her because it's like men don't walk away from relationships. But I ask myself sometimes if I would have never said, like now that I'm looking back on it, I'm like, yo, if I would have never severed the tie from my father, would my ancestors have still helped me? You feel me? Would they have still helped me? Because I knew several times over and over that I was supposed to be out of that situation, but I wouldn't listen. I wouldn't listen. Nothing was telling me to get out of it. And I wasn't paying attention to any of the signs that were being shown. It wasn't until the day she cheated. Well, I ain't gonna say the day she cheated on me, but the day she told me she cheated on me, that morning, I had a dream that she fucked the weed man. I know that sounds so tragic and shit. Like, nigga, she fucked the weed man. That's literally how I woke up. I was like, man, she fucked the weed man, bro. But it was in that it started to hit me. I said, yo, you got to learn that as a man, you can walk away when shit ain't good for you. That don't make you a bad person. That don't make you a fucked up individual. This shit is killing you on the inside. You feel me? And the aftermath was that. You know what I'm saying? I kind of died on the inside, but so it took me into my inner healing and shit. When I started to heal, I realized what I was missing. I started to realize what I was missing. And I never forget, it was like right after I finished So Frail and shit, because, it was redefining, So Frail is about black man masculinity and shit, but it was more so me and my healing and then observing how the world, did or whatever the case may be. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, shameless plug. Go check it out. It's at iamjustseen.com. Get all things that are just seen. So Frail 1, So Frail 2, So Frail 3 is on the way out. But it was in that when I was 26. I never forget it. I just got on Facebook and I said, look, man, it comes a time, I try to be all deep and philosophical. I said, it comes a time when even when you become a man, that little boy still yearns for his daddy. I said, I just want to talk to my daddy. I said, if any of my family see this, can you hit him up and tell him, give him my number, or you feel me, give me his number. So I called him. That day. And for the first time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't coming in a situation trying to be angry or anything like that. I really wanted to talk to him, genuinely talk to him. I didn't know what I was doing. I now know that I was rekindling the connection with my ancestral line that was through him. So when I called him and I talked to him, I was literally able to forgive him for real, because as I'm talking to him, it's like, he's like, yeah, man, what's up, man? How you doing? I said, I'm doing good, bro. Like, I'm working, I said, I'm not in school no more. I left school, but I'm on a different path, entrepreneurship. I just finished the book. I got that moving. And he's like, man, that's what's up, man. You doing your thing, and this was the awkward moment where he was where he was apologizing to me, but he couldn't bring himself to say the words, I'm sorry. And I started to realize some people just can't say I'm sorry because they have to admit that they are indeed sorry. You feel me? He didn't want to admit that. Like it was hard for him to apologize. I'm not upset at that because I got an apology, whether he actually said the words, I apologize. And it was in that conversation where he hit me up, where I hit him up when we talking. He said, yeah, man. He said, I know you got some little girls out there chasing you, man. He said, I know you can't keep them off you, man. I was like, man, I do all right, but I'm chilling right now, Pop. I'm trying to, get my shit together, make sure I solidify things, to make sure. And a part of me in this conversation, I want to say, make sure I don't fuck up. But I didn't do it this time. Because I didn't want to send a subtle shot. I didn't want to, be on that in that type of energy. I said, I just want to make sure I got everything solidified so I can be all that I need to be as a man. He said, yeah, man. He said, that's the best way to go. He said, because, you don't want to fuck up like I did. You don't want to fuck up like I did. That was his apology. At that point, it finally felt freeing to know, bro, you now know what you did to me. And I think he always knew what he did to me, but he didn't know how to say that he knew that he fucked up. But he told me, he said, you know what? You don't want to make the mistake I did. You don't want to make the mistake I did. I realized my mama she was still hurt a little bit from it because when I, told her that, she was like, oh, he tried to call you a mistake? I said, nah, ma, he didn't call me a mistake. Like, no, that's not what he was saying. but he was saying, in a sense, he was acknowledging that he fucked up, and he knows that he fucked up. And I was able to let it go, and I was able to reconnect with that energy, with my ancestral energy. And when I say life took off for me after that, that's when I realized, and it ties back into the post that I was talking about sometimes the ancestors that are the strongest and most dominant in your life are the ones that come from the absent parent. And it was when I plugged back in, shit took the fuck off. Like, I forgave him, and I didn't necessarily reconnect with him because I realized that there's nothing that we can do. There's nothing that we can get back. I was 26 at the time. I said, this is 26 years of life. Only experienced 4 months. I experienced 4 months of life with you. That's it. My first 4 months, and then that week when I was 11 years old. So 4 months of my life, he has known me. I said, I can't hold on to that, because I also got to a point where I started to realize that I can't blame him for my shortcomings if I'm not willing to give him credit, because his absence is why I am who I am today. You feel me? So I couldn't be in a space where I'm like, I'm gonna blame this nigga for, you know what I mean? You the reason why I have fucked up relationships. You the reason why I'm this, that, and the third. But then it's like, look at the success that I've achieved. I can't give him credit for that. Therefore, I should no longer place blame on him. So I had to absolve myself for that. And it was like, in our conversation, he didn't necessarily apologize, but he apologized. You feel what I'm saying? He didn't have to utter the words, man, I apologize for what I did, because he was like, man, please, and when somebody says certain shit, it don't matter what the words are. You can feel the energy off of what they talk about. He was like, yeah, man, because, you don't want to make the mistake I did. You feel me? And it was in hearing that he wasn't saying the mistake was having kids. He wasn't saying that the mistake was getting married, in his 20s. He wasn't saying that. He was like, the mistake was that you became this without me. I wasn't there for you. That was my mistake. I didn't fight for my kids. I didn't fight for none of that shit. You feel what I'm saying? There's a lot of shit I harbored and I held on to, because it hurts. It hurts to feel that. And in severing my ties from him, I severed my ties from them. But it was in, reconnecting with the essence of him. I don't fuck with him still. Like, I don't know bitter shit or anything like that. Like, I don't talk to him on a regular basis. Because it's like, there's nothing to have a conversation about. There's nothing to talk about. We have nothing to talk about. But in that last conversation we had, I was able to reconnect with him, which in turn reconnected with me and my last name, which in turn reconnected me with them as, my ancestral lineage, who has always been with me from his side. That's who's always been protecting me. I have to give the acknowledgement there. You feel what I'm saying? And they still continue to protect me, whether I couldn't connect, whether I was disconnected from them or not, because it was like, I can tell, I don't know, maybe this is just me. I might be reaching, but this is just my understanding, my perspective of saying, like, I think they still were gonna fuck with me regardless. They understood my anger. They understood my pain. It was justified. You feel me? It wasn't like I said, fuck them. I said, fuck him and all he stood for. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I don't want nothing to do with you at all. And they still protected me, because it wasn't like I never went and said, yo, fuck everything that's, like, I didn't really do that. It was just him. But me disconnecting from him disconnected me from them. And they still protected me, though. But in that conversation, it was like, phew, I healed. I forgave him. And when I forgave him and reestablished the connection for me. And by reestablishing that connection from 26 to now, I'll be 31 in 2 weeks, right? But for now, they were lit. They've been fucking they've been giving me messages, all kinds of shit. Like, they have reinvigorated me. Like, my vision is back. Like, not my 2020 eye vision, but my spiritual vision. Like, I've always been a seer. I can see things. You feel what I'm saying? I get spiritual messages and all of this other good shit. And it's like, I can see it and I understand where it's coming from. And I understand who has been doing this for me. So they have opened doors and cleared shit out for me like no other. But it wasn't until I had to reconnect with him, who was the absent parent, because that was who was there. Disconnecting from him made me try to force a connection with the family, the side of the family that really I'm not tied to. You know what I mean? My mom's side of the family, they're not my soul tribe. They're not my spiritual connection. Like, we have similarities and shit and all of that shit. But for the most part, it's like, my dad's side of the family, they can think they are on some different shit. But I realize that it's just been misguided, and that's what I'm breaking. That's what I'm tasked with. You feel what I'm saying? And so, in their protection of me, not only did they protect me, they have been granting me with a lot of good shit. You know, they've been the ones who, and then that's when I started to realize who, because when they told me the stories, when they started telling me the stories about how they got down and how gangster shit they was, you feel me? Like some of the shit that they did, like the stories is ruthless. But again, I ain't opening up cases, no shit like that. And I'm not, I'm not going to incriminate too much shit. You feel me? Because they were on some other shit. But when I look at the people that wronged me and the aftermath that happened, I was like, bruh, something is looking out for me. Something has me well protected. So much so that the moment I sever my tie from some shit that has been fucking me up, they do it dirty. What happened to my ex-girlfriend after she cheated on me and then kept fucking with me? It was like I was still connected to her, and I was just like, yo, this, when I say, yo, this is it, I'm done with you, and this is like, yo, she got fucked up. She got fucked up. She now has to live with what she did to me every single day. She'll never be able to forget it. It's going to be hard for her to move on because of all the aftermath and the shit that happened with it. I'm like, damn, my ancestors are different. And I be telling people now that I have embraced them a lot more, and I now, give them their thanks on a regular basis. I know who I'm living for and what I'm doing my shit for, and now I'm moving in that light. Don't fuck with me. Please don't. This ain't no scary shit or this trying to scare you. Don't come in my space with ill intentions trying to fuck shit up. They don't play. Like people say shit like, yo, my ancestors don't play about me. No, I'm telling you, mine really don't play about me. It ain't just no stupid shit like, oh, you wake up one morning, your tire's flat. No, they hit you with lasting shit forever. You will never, you almost will never recover from. I don't know what it is that I know what I'm built for, and I know what my task and my mission is and what I'm supposed to do. But when they intervene, they intervene. I fucks with y'all because, y'all my podcast listeners and shit. I fucks with y'all, so y'all wouldn't do no stupid shit. But anybody who decides to do stupid, I don't, it's so heavy that I have to put myself in a position that when I do my meditations in the morning, I'm giving my thanks. I always say, I'm going to bid peace and blessings to all those in my space with positive intentions. And I bid neutrality and reflection to those who are in my space with negative intentions, right? I always say that. The reason why I say that is because I mainly say neutrality first to say, hey, look, y'all, just let it go. Let it go. But reflection is more so whatever you do to me is going to get done to you. You feel me? So not to fuck with me. But I used to just say, get them. But then it wasn't until I seen how they get them. And I'm like, and it hurt. It hurt so bad because I love that woman. I love that woman with everything in me. And to see that, I was like, how you got that shit where you say, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. She had become my worst enemy, and I started feeling bad for her. That's how fucked up that shit was on that. So I was like, yo, and then because her connection with me by affiliation was making her life better because I was living in the right path and honoring what they wanted me to do. You feel me? And she played that. She devastated that. And the moment they said, are you done? When I said I'm done, that was it. That was it. But I had a different respect for him because now when I seen what happened to her, it started to put into perspective like the way my cousins and shit and my father's side of the family in the physical world used to look out for me. Sometimes shit I didn't even know, but it's the way that they looked out for me was on some, yeah, don't do no shit like that. Don't fuck with him. Do not fuck with him. You know what I mean? And that was the theme of what we were talking about here. It wasn't much I can draw from outside of myself with this one. So this one seems a little bit more personal, but it's like my disconnect from my father's side. That brief stint when I disconnected between 18 and 26, my life was hell. My life was hell. I know I still graduated with honors and I was still doing nah, from the spiritual side. I was not connected. I was protected. So like when I say protected, only the important shit would work. You feel me? Like the foresight, it wasn't there. It was just like I almost got kicked out of school. I almost got kicked out of undergrad because it's a dry campus and we had a fucking party. And the protection was there, so much so that it was like as soon as the party was about to start, it was like, all right, y'all can go ahead and drink. Nobody moved. Nobody moved. I just sat there and said, nah, fuck all that shit. We ain't doing that shit. But we almost got kicked out of school. But again, because of who I was and because I was living on a positive perspective, that really helped. I was Mr. Honors Hall. I was doing it like they were like, when they told me, because like all of the people on the panel, I fucked with them. They pulled me to the side. They said, we did not want to fuck this up for you. They said, we know that this was a mistake. We know how good of a person you are and all the things that you do. We see you work. So we're not going to fuck this up for you. But your girl, you might want to consider letting her go because she almost got it fucked up for you because she kept running her mouth. She kept doing certain shit. She was very, very volatile. You feel me? And I kept getting the message, leave her alone. Leave her alone. Even like I said, when my cousin came to the college and shit, when he seen it, he was like, you know that ain't you. I now know that wasn't a physical. He wasn't, calling her ugly and no shit like that. But I now know what he was saying. That was the soul. He was like, bro, you're not even my same cousin no more. He said, remember you used to be. He said, man, when you left high school, man, you was the man, bro. Like, motherfucker. He said, now look, you just laid back and you don't do shit. My tie was severed. I realized, bro, we from the same same spiritual bloodline. That's why you are still vibrant and like that, because you didn't sever what I severed. I severed it because of my father. Like, I didn't know that I would separate myself from him. Like I said, I relit it when I was 26. When I say life changed, whew, man, did life change. It got so much more easier. Like, I was able to maneuver through the jobs and move up in ranks and shit. And you feel me? Be able to retire at 28 and all these different things and shit. This happened within a 5-year time frame. Well, it was probably less than that, from 26 to 28. 2 years. And still being able to thrive and function and continue to do the things that I'm doing now. It's them, because I got my connection back. And now I know not to kill my connection again, because whether I reconcile or fix whatever it was with my pops, I don't have to do that, because I reconnected with the ancestors. And not only are they protecting me again, they've always been protecting me, but now they're connecting with me again. So they give me little gems like, yo, pay attention to this. Go watch this. Go listen to this. Go, check this person out. Look at this. Like, say this to this person. Say this to that person. You know what I'm saying? I get those messages now because I'm back. Like, you feel me? That connection is there. And it ties into all that we were talking about. Even in their absence, sometimes that parent is still there. You feel me? And it's in that disdain that you may have for them that can sever the connection between you and your ancestors from that side, but they'll always still be protecting you. You feel me? They'll always still be protecting you. It's in whether or not you are willing to have that forgiveness, to have the open heart to reconnect with them. Whether or not you reconnect and reconcile with the absent parent, that's irrelevant. You feel what I'm saying? But channeling that back in to be able to connect with them, you have to know that, because they very well could be the ancestral line that's protecting you the most.
And don't forget to take a moment to go get your exclusive merchandise from Just Scenes merch. At Just Scenes, each piece is specifically crafted with positive imagery and symbolism. From the titles and designs to the descriptions, each style gives you something to feel great about. With everything from hoodies and tees to coffee mugs and tote bags, we have something for the entire family. So be sure to get yours today. Find us on Instagram at Just Scenes merch and get your merchandise right now.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. Yeah, this one I wanted to be transparent. This one was gonna be a more personal one, because it's like, this is firsthand experience of what that means and what that represents for me, because I experienced it. I've been through it, and I know that the absent parent can be the parent that is really the one protecting you. Now, this is not to say, because some of us have that dual nature. We have ancestors from both sides. I still got ancestors from both sides, but my dominant side, the side that is really like what my bloodline is, what my generational power is to fix certain shit, is to fix what happened on my father's side. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily to fix, like, I'm fixing shit from my mother's side of the family too, but it's like that connection that I have now is different. It's different. It's there. And they are me and I am them. And I had to learn that, it wasn't until I actually started meeting them and meeting my physical family and then knowing that, yo, y'all feel just like me. This is my soul, bruh. Like, this is where we at, bruh. And then I was able to feel the ancestors, and I was able to feel them when they were there, and I can feel when they left. And I can tell that they were still protecting me, but they felt replaced for that 8 years from 18 to 26. They felt replaced like a motherfucker. You feel me? They felt replaced like a motherfucker because I was trying to connect and tie it to a side of my family that didn't want me, that didn't accept me. Their ancestor, that ancestral line wasn't even the same. They still looked out or whatever the case may be, but I just didn't feel it. It didn't feel there, But what I did feel was ironically from my absent father. Had he been in my life, I probably wouldn't be this person right now. So him being out of my life was perfect, but it didn't change the fact that I still got this bloodline running through me. Like, I was talking to my mom about it. I was like, why have you never told me anything like this and everything? It's like, because now there's things within me that I've always felt that I could not define, that I thought I was going crazy for. That was like, yo, why am I the only one to feel this? Why am I the only one? And I wasn't. My brother and my sister do the exact same. You feel me? But that sense of belonging is gone because it's coming from my father. It's coming from our father. He won't there. So we empty. We were empty. Well, I ain't gonna say we, because I don't know how they fucking felt. But I do know that it made me feel disconnected and detached, like something was missing. Like, I really just cannot get down with my mom's side of the family like that. Like, their energy don't feel right to me. It don't feel normal. It doesn't feel like a reflection. My father's side does. Laugh, joke, play, the storytellers, the critical thinkers, like, that's who that was. You feel me? That's who that was. And they were free about that shit. And tapping into it, I know that it's me too. So, yeah, I kind of just wanted to explain that because that was a very interesting topic. And, once little shorty and shit, nah, she ain't little shorty, she a grown ass woman. I ain't even gonna do it like that. But once the sister, when she made that post, it made me like, yeah, I really want to talk about this because that shit hit. But it made me reflect more and kind of brought full circle. Like, damn, I did cut them off. And I can look at the phases in my life and when they were there. I could look at when they disappeared. And I can look at like after the ties were severed and shit. And when I actually said, yo, bro, I'm not y'all. I'm like, I don't want nothing to do with that shit. I used to always say, I reached a point where I did not want my father's last name anymore. I thought about changing it so much, but it was like, nah, that bloodline is there. My last name is tied to my bloodline. I'm not changing that shit. That's in a sense how I'm able to be the manifestation of my ancestors. You feel me? But it just so happens that I come from them. It just so happens that I come from them instead of the other side. You feel me? And they protect me. They've been protecting me this whole time. And now I have been able to reconnect with them more. I still pay homage to all of my ancestors, but there's some because it's more so that's me. You feel me? Y'all are the reflection of myself, and then having that tide severed from my father, it took it away. It took the connection away, but the protection was there. Like, bro, like, whew, man, I be feeling bad when motherfuckers come in my space with some fucked up shit. But don't get it twisted though. Don't be like, it's like I just sick them on people like they the hounds or no shit like that. Nah. Because they punish me equally. They punish me equally based off my intentions. If I do some fuck shit, if I intentionally do some fuck shit, some foul shit, I'm going to suffer for it. I'm gonna suffer for it. Don't get it twisted, like, and a lot of people don't pay attention to that. A lot of people, don't talk about shit like that. They don't want to add that part into the spiritual side of like, yeah, my ancestors don't play about me, and they don't play with you either. They don't play with you either. If they gonna be out here running these, running up on motherfuckers spiritually and doing shit in your name because people wronged you, they gonna equally do that shit to you when you wrong other people. If that shit ain't justified, it ain't warranted, my response ain't warranted for that shit, I'm not gonna do it. You feel me? That's one of the things that absolves me from whether or not, because sometimes if I do something and I know somebody responded a certain way and I be feeling like, damn, was my intention wrong? Like, they'll punish me if I really did some sucker shit. They'll really punish. Like, when I say really punish me, they really will punish me for some sucker shit. You feel me? No ifs, ands, or maybes about it. It's like, yo, you did some stupid shit. Don't do that shit no more. You are supposed to be maintaining integrity and morale. Don't you ever do no stupid shit like that again. Be honest, be genuine, go ahead and go above and beyond. That's what they want from me. So I gotta be that. You feel me? But I gotta still be my authentic self. But it's like, yeah, I get the smoke too. Don't get it twisted. I get the smoke too. If I ever, if a motherfucker ever feel like I wronged them, I gotta rectify that situation. Now, if it's coming, I didn't wrong you, I didn't play with you and shit like that, I don't get punished for the shit. But if I know in my heart intentionally I was gonna scheme and scam on you, I eat that shit. I gotta eat that shit. They tear me to pieces. Just like they get other motherfuckers, they get me too. That's a different smoke I don't want. I ain't gonna hold you, bro. I don't want that smoke like that. Like, when I look at the heartbreak that I got in, yeah, they responded to how she did me because she went above and beyond with the shit. She kept fucking with me. But the reason why I did that, the reason why I received that heartbreak from that person was because I'm known. Like, my ancestors, they know me, and they know what's up. They know that it only takes me one time to learn a lesson. So all of the women that I had wronged, that I had embarrassed, that I had played, that I did dirty and shit, they made me feel that shit. You ain't absolved from this shit. You was a fuck boy, and you gonna pay for that fuck boy shit. I'm gonna let it accumulate though. We're gonna let it accumulate though, and we only gonna give it to you one time so you'll learn your lesson. It was in the relationship that I was learning the lesson. I was like, you know what? Let me go back and apologize to the women that are wrong, because that was it. Thinking I'm gonna absolve the karma. Nah, we appreciate the apology. That's what the women would say. We appreciate the apology. Even them, they was like, it's good that you apologize. You showed the change. You still gonna feel it. You still gonna feel it. That shit broke me to my core, and it was like, but I ain't never break a heart like that. Yes, you did. All of the accumulations of all of the women that you did dirty, all of the women that you did wrong, you got to feel that shit. You got to feel that shit. So you know not to do it again. That's why I changed my perspective. It ain't because I had a daughter. You feel me? It ain't because I had some, I got my ass whooped. I felt that shit, bruh. Sis, all y'all, I felt they made me feel that shit because it was like, yo, don't do this shit again. This is all of the shit that you've done to people. This is all the shit that you've done to women. You feel me? Stop it. Don't ever do it again. I ain't never do it again. I'm scared to do that shit again, bro. Like, for real. Like for real, like, I don't want that shit. I don't want that smoke again. But it charged me to say, okay, be intentional with your shit. Know that when you go into a situation, it's all positive. You know that you put your best into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not doing no fucked up shit. And you know you're not doing any fucked up shit. So have that understanding too. And people like, my ancestors don't play about me. And they don't play with you either. Tell the whole story. I'm gonna tell this shit. Like, yo, when they several times they put the smoke on me, they put the pause on me, bruh. Because I was on some sucker shit. I was on some unintentional shit. And it was like, no, don't do that shit. Don't do that shit. Stop it. Stop it. I'm like, okay. Just the same way and with the same, fervor and the same severity that they punished people who wronged me, they punished me the same way for when I wrong people. Changed my perspective on my outlook of life because I started to look at it differently. You feel me? My ancestors ain't biased. Man. But again, they on that gangster shit. That's the bloodline in which I come from. That's how I know when they're present and when they not. Because it's like, all right, we gonna navigate and we're gonna make this shit right. All right, cool. We'll let you get away with it for so far, but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. But it makes it easier for me to see and be on point because I had to reconnect with them after severing the tie from the disdain based off of my father and shit. Do I fuck with him? No, I still don't fuck with my father like that. But I've forgiven him to where I can let the shit go and I have an open heart with it. And that open heart is what allows me to connect to them. Rather than just, being protected by them. I got a connection with them and shit. I can know when they speaking to me. Sometimes they speak to me directly. You feel me? It's like, hey, get your shit together, bro. But it's crazy because it's like by disconnecting from him, it kept me from wanting to learn their names, wanting to learn who I can talk to. And, it was in rekindling that I started to learn, oh, that's what's up. That's what's up. I fucks with you. You feel me? So, yeah. That's it. Kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables. And one side of this, if you have an absent parent and, forgive them. I'm not saying reconcile. I'm not saying have a relationship. Sometimes you can't, but you need to forgive them to open up your heart so that way the ancestors that are protecting you in regards to them can still get through and still do what they need to do and still guide you and help you if they need to. Sometimes your ancestor could be from the present parent. Cool. That's fine. But sometimes they're from the absent parent and you can be separated from them solely because you are not in tune with what you're supposed to be in tune with. And your disdain and your hatred and your rage and your anger is keeping you from them. But they're going to find ways to bring you back. You dig what I'm saying? They're going to find ways to bring you back. You got to be able to see it. You'll come back to them, but you got to have that understanding of, what the energy is. For those who are absent parents, if you're listening to this, whether you can reconcile or whatever the case may be with the mother or the father of that child, make sure you're in that child's life. Make sure that child knows who you are. You feel me? Truly knows who you are, knows what you come from, because whether you're there or not, you are there. Your presence your essence is all over them, whether you're absent or present. Your essence is in them. And when they feel you in things, they feel normal. You feel me? But they need to understand. And the reason why they feel you is because they also feel their ancestors. They feel their source. They feel the connection that they have with them. Make sure as an absent parent, if you are the absent parent, that you are able to provide them with some kind of understanding for who they are. That's why you're a parent. That's what you're supposed to guide them to, their soul, the version of their soul that is you, so they can maneuver through the world the right way. If you are the present parent, please, please, please do not. My mother never did this, and I'm fortunate enough. She told me I was going to figure it out for myself, but never keep that parent away from that child. If the parent doesn't want to be there, cool. That's not your problem. But don't never badmouth that parent around your child. Never speak ill of that parent, because what you are speaking on is the form of their internal essence. That child feels their essence, especially if you're the parent. If you happen to be the parent that they're not connecting to, when you are telling them that this parent is this parent is that, they can feel that essence is who they are. You telling them that they ain't shit, they just like, you shut that shit down in them, because that's all they feel. Had my mama have done that to me when I finally met my father's side of the family, knowing that she has always talked about this essence and feeling that essence, I would have been like, this essence ain't shit. And then trying to reconnect with the essence that I don't have any ties to, which is her side of the family, I would have remained lost as a kid. I would have remained lost as a person. So if you are the present parent, do not allow your child to have an ill expression of the parent that is not there. Make sure they know who they are for themselves, because you will be speaking ill of who that child is, a piece of who that child is, and it will silence them forever. And it could cause them to separate themselves from the very ancestors that's protecting them. All right. Cut that shit out. We gotta do better. So that said, go kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables. And I'm gonna see y'all all on the next one. Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. I'm out.